was born in Borough Park in a big house. It was my grandfather's house. It was on 15th Avenue. And then we moved to 53rd Street, 1467 53rd Street. Then I went to school. I went to school PS 103, it was down the corner. A little later on, I went to Ethical Kosher School. In the 5th grade, actually, I switched over to Poly Prep, which is out in Dyker Heights, Brooklyn.
So you graduated from law school and you went to work with your dad in his law practice.
Yes.
But he didn't practice criminal law.
No, everything but. So he happened to have someone working in his firm by the name of Ben Spector, who was an assistant DA. Back in those days, an assistant DA could practice law as long as it was not criminal law. In other words, I had taken the bar, and I had passed the bar, but I wasn't admitted yet. I also was involved in politics, and I joined a club called the Roosevelt Democratic Club. I was in the club, and I heard that a job was opening up in the Brooklyn DA's office. It was at that point that Leo Healy was getting sick. And matter of fact, he went into the hospital. So I told my father, I said, I need another job. He went and he spoke to the Democratic leader, Jack Weinberg, who was the head of the Roosevelt Democratic Club, which was the club that I said I had joined. And he told Jack Weinberg I wanted to become an assistant DA. He says, that may be a problem, because Joe Levine, also a member of our club, wants to become an assistant DA, and he's the head of Ed. My father says, I'll take care of that. My father knew Joe Levine's uncle, whose name was Phil Kleinberg. So he called Phil Kleinberg, and he told him, Phil, I want Edward to have the job, not Joe. And Phil says, if that's what you're asking for, Harry, you got it.
Over his own nephew?
Yes, because no one says no to my father. So I went in before Joe Levine. Homicide is where you are assigned to go out and interview people. You go out, you interview witnesses, you take their statements, and there'll be a reporter with you who will take down the statements, if you're able to, question defendants, and read them their rights. So I went on a ride where a person was accused of sticking up a place. I interviewed the witness. He told me what happened. I spoke to the defendant, read him his rights, and he told me to go fuck myself. And then after a while, the district attorney, Eugene Gold, appointed me the head of and I became head of the Homicide and Investigations Bureau up until I left in 1974. The PBA is the Patrolman Benevolent Association. They represent police officers that need, and I had a staff of lawyers that work for me. And the DEA represents detectives. It's the Detective Endowment Association. Torsley was on patrol with a partner, and they got a call that there was an incident that took place in Brooklyn, and they went to the incident, and when they got there, it was over. And as I was leaving, a kid came up to Torsley and says, "Were you just in my parents' apartment?" And Torsley says, "I was, and it's none of your business." And he turned around, Torsley did, and he shot the kid. And then Torsley kept walking, and he got into his police car. His partner ran after him and says, "What the hell did you just do?" He says, "I thought he had a gun, and I shot him. He didn't have any gun." He says, "Don't tell me what I saw, and mind your own business." He used some profanity.
Where did this take place?
Near Ebbets Field.
What was the race of this boy?
If I recall correctly, I think he was black.
And what was the Torsley's race?
White.
When you were presiding over that Crown Heights case,
Yes.
you had to have a security detail following you around all the time. Were you afraid for your personal safety?
That wasn't my idea. What happened was that there were riots and outside of the court and so forth. It was decided by the presiding judge and by the district attorney working together. The state has someone in charge and others, and even the mayor. And the governor even got involved, and they were concerned about my safety. But I wasn't. I didn't think anything. But they followed me around, and it was very annoying. And I didn't think it was anybody's business, the things that I did and people I saw. And I like to spend time with your mother. And it was annoying to be followed around by security, police.
Do you remember the day of the verdict?
What happened was that after the summations were completed, I adjourned. There wasn't a verdict. My clerk told me that the jury was having a problem. I thought there was going to be a hung jury. In order to have a verdict, all 12 jurors must agree. If they can't agree, then they have to keep deliberating. And I kept getting notes from the jury that they needed more time. So the jury was out for a really long time. I had to send them home. Now, because of the security and what was happening outside, and there was, you could call them riots if you want to, because the blacks were carrying on, Orthodox Jews were carrying on, and there seemed to be a lot of interplay and so forth. What I did was I didn't want the jurors to be aware of this, so I had the jurors sequestered, in other words, so that they wouldn't know what was happening. Usually when a jury's sequestered, they usually reach a verdict the same day. This jury didn't, so I had to arrange housing for them. So we put them up in a hotel, which cost money from the state of New York. They had to pay for it. I had to also arrange transportation. We had to increase the security, and we didn't want the jury to know that there was security. So we had to get all these police officers in plain clothes, and they had to be in non-police cars so that they weren't aware of what was happening. I used a lot of court personnel, court officers. I had them do it, but they had policemen dressed in court uniforms so that the police officers looked like they were part of the court system, when in fact they weren't. So here we were. I was under guard. The jury was under guard. Everybody was under guard. And we had to keep the press away from the jurors, and that was another problem. They wanted to be there with cameras. The jury was taken out, so we had to keep them away, just costing a lot of money, a lot of time. It was absurd. And this went on for 2.5 days. 2.5 days of this. And then finally, one of my court officers told my secretary, law secretary, that they had reached a verdict. But we didn't know what the verdict was because the jury wouldn't reveal it. And I thought the defendant should be found not guilty. Anyhow, they finally came in and not guilty.
He was found not guilty.
Yeah,
That's what happened.
Okay, so you finally said, fine, I'll call Sandra Landsman. Then what happened?
yes. And I called her and I arranged to take her out. So I went over to her apartment and I met her parents. I looked at her and I said, would you like to go out? And she said yes. So I said, all right, let's go. She says, now? I said, why not? We could go out and, have a drink or something. So she says, all right. And we went out. It was funny. We ran into a friend of mine and I introduced her. And I said, you look very young. How old are you? She says 20. I said, 20? And she looked at me, she says, how old are you? I said, I'm 30. She says, you're 30? You don't look 30. Well, we went out for a drink.
I wasn't able to drink. I was
No.
too young.
Yeah, she wasn't able to. No, that's how I learned that she was under 21. But I said, but I could order the drink for you. They won't know. You look 21.
So I thought you went out all night or something. Tell me the story of your first date.
Remember we met with Joe and Muriel, Florence and Jean,
yes.
Davy Blitz.
Yeah, I had some very close friends. Joe Frost, his wife Muriel, his brother-in-law Gene Wilpon, Muriel's sister Florence, and a friend Jerry Bloom. Jerry Bloom was a doctor and a very close friend of Joe's. Anyhow, we all went out. We all had drinks.
We went out to dinner, and then we went to some sort of club.
Yes, we did.
What club?
It was on Ocean Parkway.
Right. We were out till 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right. I got home at 3 in the morning.
Not 3, but my mother was calling the police.
When I got her home, I got screamed at.
Were you allowed to take her out again?
I guess so. I ended up marrying her.
What was the next date? I mean, how did it unfold from there?
I don't
Because you
remember
said
that.
you had other dates.
I don't remember the dates. It was so long ago. This was, you know how long ago this was?
No, you had other girls you were dating. So what happened to them after you?
Well, I continued dating because those girls I had an intimate relationship with.
What happened in December when you went on vacation to Miami and you stayed at the Fontainebleau?
I wrote you a postcard. I said, I miss you.
Well, I thought it was really, he must like me if he sent me a postcard. But the reality was, it was very rainy and had nothing to do.
That was 59 years ago. I was a little strange.
One of the years that we were down here and I said, let's just check out the Fontainebleau. And we hadn't been there in a long, so many years. So we were in the lobby and, with people watching. And I walked over and I bought a postcard, with, of course, the picture of the Fontainebleau, like similar to what he had sent me all those years ago. And I wrote him a postcard and I mailed it. And when we got home, he had the postcard from the Fontainebleau. That was cute.
Hilda called me and she says, what are you doing? Don't you think it's time you gave Sandy a ring and got engaged? And I said, okay. So that's what I did. I got engaged to her. On March 15th, we got engaged and we set a wedding date for June. We got married June 20th.
And where did you get married?
Temple on Ocean Parkway.
We didn't move off Ocean Parkway too far.
No, and I used my Rabbi Shore, and I also had my cantor, Kutsevitsky. And it was a great wedding. I'll always remember it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and then we went on a honeymoon.
Where'd you go on your honeymoon?
We went on a honeymoon. We flew first to California, and then we went to Hawaii.
So, and then what else did you do during this time period?
I was a partner with someone. We owned a store that people came to. They came to get different sandwiches. We sold a lot of bagels. A lot of people said we were the best bagel store. Yes, it does.
Okay.
We also opened another store in Manhattan.
Who's running that operation?
Melanie runs the store on 3rd Avenue. She runs S&W.
Favorite show? Broadway show? Fiddler on the Roof, The King and I. And we went on my 16th birthday. So where would sometimes you go after the theater? What was the famous place? Remember we would go sometimes to the restaurant?
Sony's?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I like Sony's.
Yeah. Oh, and then there were the years that you were a member of the Friars Club.
Yes, I'm still a member of the
Right.
Friars Club.
And what's one of your favorite books or authors?
Oh, Patterson. I like Grissom, I like Patterson. I like a lot of other authors. I like a lot of books. I read a lot of books.
What's your favorite genre, though, of book?
Books about, that have different things about law in them. People committing crimes and about lawyers and things of that nature.
What was the most exotic place you ever went to?
Hawaii. I love being in Hawaii.
Really? If you could plan a trip right now and be anywhere right now, where would you want to go?
Anywhere that my wife would go with me.
That means not a cruise, I guess.
No, she doesn't like to go on boats. I've been on boats. She was on a boat with me.
Well, you used to go on river cruises, right?
We did take a river cruise. That was interesting.
So if you could envision the future, what do you think the world is going to be like in 100 years from now?
Well, it won't be as good as it is now. You know why?
Because you won't be here?
Right. We may have very, very advanced technology. That's what they're working on, is to advance the technology. They're working on things to go to the different planets outside of Earth, establish a planet that people could live on so that we can move people around. It's all very interesting.
Would you want to be here in 100 years to see all of that?
Yes, I would like to live here, and I want to live in New York. I want to have a place in Great Barrington, and I want to have my house in Massachusetts. What my wish is that in 10, 20 years from now, that I'm still going to all these different places. Even though I may be 100 or 110, I want to live as long as I can. And you know why I want to live a long time? I have grandchildren, 4 of them. I have 2 daughters, 2 son-in-laws. I have a married granddaughter by the name of Rebecca, and hopefully she'll have a child soon, and then I'd have a great-great-grandchild. As my granddaughters, other granddaughters, Molly and Zoe, get older, I hope to be at their weddings and see them get married to wonderful guys, and they have children, and they have more great-grandchildren. And then my grandson, Zach, I hope that he becomes interested in girls. Well, he may be interested, I don't see him dating that much. But I hope he gets married and has a grandson. I hope someone names their great-grandchild Edward after their great-great-grandfather. That would be nice. And I hope that I live long enough to see my great-great-grandchildren have children, and I could be one to say I have great-great-grandchildren. And that would be unique, would it not? And those are the things that I look forward to.
Anything else that you want to share with the future generations who might be watching this one day?
I like to tell them something that I think is very important. Be loyal to each other and loyal to family. Whatever they do, that they do things that are proper and ethical so that no one in the family will be embarrassed.
Well, yeah, so what's the secret to a happy life?
Decide what you want to do and to do it. That was like I did. I grew up with a father who was a lawyer, even though I didn't like his type of law. He was very helpful for me. Because of him, I was able to get into a law school. That was a good law school, Brooklyn Law School. And after I graduated, because of him, through someone that worked in his office, I got a job with someone by the name of Leo Healy.
So a happy life is career for you? Like having a career that you really love?
No, it's more than career. Career is important. Happy life is to do things to make everybody proud. To have a good family, to have a good relationship with your wife like I usually do. There were times that, like all husbands and wives, they have disagreements, but for the most part we agree. And to have good children, and to help your children get a good education, and to have a good life, and to hope that they find good husbands like my 2 daughters did. And go be at their weddings, as of course Sandy and I were at both weddings. We were lucky that we were still alive, as we still am. And then we had 4 grandchildren. That was very exciting to me. But I think the important thing in life is to have a good relationship with your family, to do what you want to do in life, as I did. Live a long time, as I'm doing.